So as we continue with our service, I'm glad that you took out of your day to be here. Again, I'll remind you that after this service, we're going to have some meals and fellowship time together. We actually have some speakers that's going to speak today during our lunch, so I want you to be there. They're coming from Zero Gravity. It's an event that's going to be coming on. That's a Christian event that's going to be just like crazy motorcycle drifting, and I'm not even sure all of what they do. All I know is they do it like 40 feet up in the air, hanging off motorcycles and things like that. But the thing is that what they're going to do is they're going to bring the message of Jesus Christ through that event. And so we're excited to be a part of that. And they'll be speaking to us at lunch today. I'm not sure if he's bringing a motorcycle in or not to run around the room or not, but I'm looking at him. He's like, he might be a surprise. I'm not sure. Anyway, so we're in a message series right now. If you're a guest here today, or this is your first or second time around, we're in a message series where we're talking about heroes, and we're making the comment that heroes are needed, and we want heroes to apply. And the way that we title this is "Heroes Needed, Apply Within," because we believe that heroes, the actions that you see of heroes, are an extension going on inside of that person. Start out as heroes, they just start out as people like you and I. There's regular people walking in different clothes. Now, some have military uniforms and have medals that distinguish them to let you know that they're heroes or that they've done something exemplary. But others wearing regular clothes or even fireman clothes, first responders. These people that are heroes come from all walks of life. Now, in my time, I've heard that people say we need more heroes. Have you ever heard anybody say that? We just need more heroes. Now, I'm not talking about the heroes of Marvel Comics, though I'm not saying anything bad about Iron Man. Let me go and say that now, or Spider-Man, or Superman, or all of these other heroes that are fictional. And I'm just going to tell you, and I know it's going to break Wyatt's heart right now, but Jason Bourne is a fictional hero. He's not real. Jason Bourne is not real. Please don't tell the guys on Duck Dynasty because Phil believes he's real. He's real to me. Okay, all right. What I want to talk about is the need for heroes and what they bring to us. What do heroes do? See, heroes to me, they are people that we admire, we look up to. Would you agree with that? If you think of a hero that you have, a real life hero, it's somebody that you look up to, that you admire. It's somebody that we measure ourselves against. We sort of see how we're doing comparing to that hero. It's someone who exhibits qualities that we wish or we hope that we can put out that same we do in a given situation. You know, we could use a few more heroes in this world today. And this part that we're talking about in this message series is that heroes are those people that we believe the realistic heroes are the ones who are people on their path of becoming a disciple of Jesus Christ. Somewhere along the line, they're on this growth pattern of being a hero or being a disciple of Jesus Christ. Guys, that they're not perfect. They don't have it all together. They're just regular people. Some have specific trainings. Others have specific trainings. And some are just hanging out. Some are just moms and dads doing their normal day. But they're trying to emulate this Jesus Christ. They're trying to live into a life that would look like what He did and displayed on earth. We actually follow extensions of Jesus in following His disciples and how they set the examples of how this is done. So we look at these things and we look at the heroes, and I think about 9/11 and how many of the first responders that when the accident happened, or when the attack happened, and they hit the World Trade Centers, heroes ran to the scene. First responders, and if you go back and you look at some of the tapes, and I went back over the last couple of weeks in preparing for this sermon to get my head around what was happening at that time, these people ran to the buildings. Now they're trained to do this, or not. Maybe they're trained to do certain functions, but the truth is they had to be brave. They had to do things that were difficult, that their training brought them to the brink of, but it still was their choice of whether to do it or not. And I see that and I go, oh my gosh, look how inspiring that is. We hear the stories of people who weren't trained, that were just regular businessmen or women in the towers, or people down around on the streets who went in to help others out with no training, with no equipment. We've seen who stayed all the way to the end, and we heard the phone calls, and we heard the stories of people who passed them in the stairwell as they were coming down, and they helped them, and they would go up in the stairwells to help others. And each one of those heroes like that are good and deserving of praise, because we see or hear about their heroic actions after they've done them. But what about the adult who at the right moment whispers the word of encouragement to a child to help that child continue on when they're having a bad time at school or a bad day or somebody's picked on them? Would you call that a hero? What about the nurse who, after her shift is over, understands that a patient that she has gotten some bad news and there's no family members there, and the nurse, after her shift is over, after she's worked her 12 hours, needing to get home, stays past her shift, off the clock, to be with that person so they don't have to be alone? Would you call that a hero? Because they're sacrificing. What about Jonas Salk, who developed the first polio vaccine, without which polio may be continuing to run rapid? What would that be a hero? Or George Washington Carver, who introduced crop rotation as a way to improve agriculture. Would you consider that a hero, or is that not the same because there's not life at risk, or is it? Because if it didn't change, then people would not be able to produce what they thought they could produce now. Would that be a hero? What about Stephanie Kowalik, who invented the material Kevlar that's used in bulletproof vests? Without that material, there'd be a lot of people lost more to gunshots. Would you call her a hero? While she's in the lab working with the chemicals and doing those things. See, heroes turn up in all kinds of unexpected places. One thing that we learn about heroes is they're not perfect. They're just regular people. But they're focused. They're trying to do something. They're trying to do extraordinary work, extraordinary actions in very ordinary situations most of the time. Situations that some people might ignore or walk away from. So what is it that makes someone's service or someone's sacrifice or someone's bravery stand out heroically? Well, here's a couple things that I've noted, that I've seen about heroes. And you see if you agree with any of these. Heroes blend in and adapt to their environment, but they don't bend their characters or their belief. They blend, but they don't bend. They're right there among us, and they have all these characteristics already in them. They're in them. They may not have ever put them out in the world to do, but they're in them. And given a certain opportunity, they bring those out. So they blend in, they camouflage, they sort of have the colors of the world around them. But yet there's something in them that's different. See, this is what a disciple is. This is what a follower of Jesus Christ is. They're in the world, and they're picking up these characteristics and these traits from their teachings and their learnings and their studying and hanging around with Jesus that are in them. But they have to be in this world. So they blend, but they don't bend on those issues. I would say they're like thermostats instead of thermometers. A thermometer goes into the environment and you hold it up and you hold it around, and the thermometer say it's 74 degrees. It tells you what the environment is. But a thermostat changes the environment. The thermostat sees or recognizes the environment and says, this isn't right. And it does what's in its power to adjust and change the environment to what is right. Do you know what right is? Do you know what right is these days? Do we know what truth is these days? Sometimes we struggle with that. See, I've been thinking about why do we need heroes, and I've realized that we need heroes because heroes reveal our missing qualities. We see stuff in the heroes, the people that do these things, and we go, man, is that in me? Could I do that? Could I behave in this type of way? Would I do this in this situation? Would I run toward the fire? Would I run away? Would I step up into this situation? In the first service, we were talking about different events and different examples. And I think about if a gunman came into your business or in your workplace. Let's change it. Let's don't do a workplace or business. Let's just do it where we all go. What if they came into Walmart? Got ticked off because everything's going crazy or whatever. I don't know what's going on. But they come into Walmart and you're back at the stores, back in the Doritos section. Or in the, well, I just happen to know where that section is. It just happens to be in the back of the store. Not that I hang out there all the time, but I do know they move that all the way at the back of the store for us people who just want to get in a bag of chips and get out. Can't do it anymore. Got to go all the way to the back of the store. What about if something started happening there? What would you do? Would you grab the kids around you? Would you jump in front of your loved one? Would you run and put your life on the line? What would you do when you know that bullets might be flying? Because bullets don't stop till they hit something, do they? They just don't keep going forever and ever. They stop when they hit something. What would you do? What if it wasn't a gun? What if it was just somebody, a fight breaks out? Or somebody starts to hit an argument. Somebody gets an argument between two people. Looks like they're dating or something. They get in a lover spat and get an argument in there and they're starting to escalate. What do you do? Is that different than the other? The environment's heated. Are you a thermometer and you notice it? Or are you a thermostat? What happens when there's volatile situations and you as a thermostat could come in and you could help calm that? If you could just come in with a kind word. If you just come in and just give an encouraging word. If you just give somebody hope. What if you know somebody's going through sickness and struggles and trials and they're struggling and you just could go in and you could give them light in darkness. You change the environment. See, some of us are so caught up in ourselves. Some of us are so caught up in what we've got going on. We can't see the opportunities that are out there every day for us. Opportunities for us to step up and be this missing quality. It's also opportunities for us to inspire others and pick them up when they're down. To give others hope. See, research has shown in difficult times being for me like failed relationships, failed businesses, health problems, or other life experiences, because life just happens. Phases of great personal challenge in our lives. When those times happen, heroes inspire us to overcome whatever adversity we're facing. How do you keep up and keep going? Who's inspiring you? You see, heroes lift us up when we're down personally or in danger of falling down emotionally, physically, or spiritually. See, heroes are beacons of light in a very dark place. They're thermostats. They come in and they say, this isn't right. And they look for that good. And they try to connect with the good in the others to try to brighten that space and change that environment, change that condition, to transform it. See, heroes prove to us that no matter how much suffering there is in the world, there are really some good people out there that we can count on to do the right thing, even when most people are not. Are you one of those people? Are you one of those people that can do the right thing, even when the world isn't? Are you one of those people who have blended in, but you're not bending? You still know what right is, or you're still learning what right is because of the time that you're spending growing as a disciple, growing as a follower of Jesus, who begins to be this perfect example of what it is to be a hero. See, heroes also strive to help us. They help us strive for more. See, they've done something that we admire. They embody something that we value. They become someone we want to imitate. I want to be like them. I want to be like that person. Heroes are good examples when there's a whole lot of bad examples around. Paul was writing one time to a church, and it's written in the book of Philippians, and he says this, he says, "Brothers, join in imitating me, and keep your eyes on those who walk according to the example you have seen in us." Man, I don't know if I could say that. I don't know if I could tell people, do what I'm doing, not what I'm saying. Imitate what I'm doing. Imitate these things that I'm doing. Emulate what I'm doing. Can you say that? Many of us say the game. We talk the game, but doing it is so hard. It's so hard to be that person that sees things, but fear stops us. Fear is one of those things that stops all potential heroes from being a hero. Did you know that? Fear exists in a hero's life. There's not a single hero that wasn't afraid. Not a single hero. You go back and listen to stories. They were all afraid. But they faced fear, and they still saw what was right, and they stepped into it. I told my son the other day, I said, when the stuff looks like it's blowing you back, when you ever felt like that? You ever felt like just life is blowing you back, and you don't know who you are? You're losing who you are. Does anybody else feel like, nod your head if you felt like that? You feel like life is robbing you of you. Do you understand what I mean by that? That you yielded here, and you yielded there, and you just, who am I anymore? And you feel like that the wind is just blowing you back. And I told my son, I said, son, when that happens and you feel like you're being blown back, I said, let me tell you something. Lean into it. See, too many of us just stand up like this and it just blows us and topples us over. You need to lean into it. That takes bravery. That takes courage. It doesn't mean there's an absence of fear. It means you stand in the face of fear and you've seen it and you lean into it anyway. I'm telling you that's what it takes to run into a building when it's on fire. Eric's a fireman here in town, and they tell you, they train you. But what they do is they train you in the little things so you learn to see fear often. And you know it, and you still lean in and you walk through it. See, I see too many people in this world that is in this step of becoming like Jesus, in this disciple process, say stuff like, I've never done that before. I'm afraid of doing that. I've never spent quiet time with God alone. I've never really spent any time in the Bible. I've never really prayed for myself. I've really never prayed out loud for my children. I'm afraid. And they stand up and let it blow them back. See, there's a Navy SEAL guy named Denver Rourke. Wrote a book called Worth Dying For. He's awesome. He talks about how they train the Navy SEALs, and he says, you can't be brave right here. You're not born with that. He says, what we do is we teach them to face fear so often that they know it, and they still kick in the door and they go in. He says, listen, jumping out of the airplane the first time, you're afraid. Jumping out of it the 100th time, you're afraid, but you've been there before and you've leaned into it. Some of you, anybody here afraid of public speaking? Anybody afraid of that? Anybody not afraid of that? Good. Y'all will be speaking next week. I want to get y'all's names. Y'all be having the message next week. Not a problem. See, I'm a public speaker. I speak a lot. Well, let me just say, I speak in public, I speak in private. I'm going to speak anytime because I'm a talker. Amen to that? If that didn't get amen in this church, I don't know what's going to get amen to that. But I'm afraid every time I step on this stage. Every time. There's not a single time I'm not afraid. Not a single time I'm not afraid. There's not a single time I don't feel prepared. There's not a single time that I have confidence in what all I've done, no matter how much time I prep for this, no matter how much time I've worked out. I still stand here afraid. But I lean into it. And each time I've leaned into it, I've seen fear. And I've seen it and overcome it and come through. And I've seen what God will do with me when that happens. And what God will do through me. So Paul was saying that. He was saying, imitate me. I'm not saying imitate and be me. Don't be me. But lean into your fear. Lean into that adversity. Heroes help us see that we can do more when we lean into our fear and not succumb to it. Heroes help us fail, and they help us fail well. You understand what I mean by that? We're all going to fail. Each one of us in this room will fail at something. At some attempt, you're going to lean into it, and you're going to fall smack on your face. Or get a bloody eye, lose a limb. There's no telling what you could do. Or what could happen. But we're all going to fail. Heroes teach us that even in failure we can get back up and go again. David failed a lot, if you will. But David would come to God and he would ask for forgiveness. People see David as the one who fought Goliath, but they don't see him as the one who committed adultery with Bathsheba. And they don't see him as the one who murdered or had Uriah murdered. They just think about the Goliath story. That's the hero they want. They don't want this hero that's got issues. But even with his issues, David come before God and he pleaded with him to forgive him. And in Psalms 51 he says, Lord, have mercy on me. Say that with me. Lord, have mercy on me. One more time. Lord, have mercy on me. How does that feel coming out of your mouth? Does it feel awkward? Does it feel strange? Does it feel odd to depend on someone other than yourself? Lord, have mercy on me. He continues, he says, according to your steadfast love, according to who you are, not according to who I am, according to who you are, and to your abundant mercy, blot out my transgressions. In other words, erase my wrongdoing. I can't erase it. I cannot be good enough to overcome what I've done in my past. But you can erase it. You can erase this part of me that causes me to just sit back and fall back in fear because of my past and my failures. He says, wash me thoroughly from my iniquity and cleanse me from my sin, for I know my transgressions and my sin is ever before me. Against you and you only have I sinned. David's saying, Father, it wasn't against Bathsheba, and I lost that child, and it wasn't about Uriah. I know those are bad things, but if I boil all that down, it comes back to, I did this against you. Lord, have mercy. I failed. Lord, have mercy on me. I failed. I didn't see the poor that you had around me that needed my help. I didn't see the hopeless that were right there in front of me that I failed to do something about. I was so caught up in looking at myself and thinking about my world and my kids and my family and my life and my difficulties and everything else. I didn't see the opportunity that you presented for me to just be that word of hope. Forgive me. See, heroes help us fail well, but they also help us believe. They help us believe that we can get up again. They help us believe that we can fight the good fight. They help us to understand that even in our failures, God can still use us to change this world. God can use us to change lives in this world. God can use you to change your family. Now I'm afraid, Lord. I'd rather go tackle a man with the AK-47, face a knife, than I would to have to communicate with some of the people in my family. Now, I got amens on that one too. Lord, you don't know how many times I failed. You don't know how many times I've just had different... Listen, Peter, who was going to be the one that Jesus was going to build the church on. Peter failed Jesus many times. And God still used him. Peter is the one who Jesus comes walking out on the water in the storm or whatever, and they're all in the boat. There's 12 of them in the boat, or how many, and they're like, Peter's the only one that sees them, or they all see him, and they look out there like, yo, if that's you, Jesus, call me out there. Jesus says, yo, Peter, it's me. Come on out. Nobody else stepped out of the boat but Peter. Nobody to that time in history that I know of has ever seen anybody walk on water other than them seeing Jesus walk on water. And even seeing them, they can't believe it. They can't lean in it because their fear thinks it's a ghost. What is this? But yet, Peter leans into his fear, steps out, and takes a step on water. But then he looks at everything around him. Right? If you remember that story, he looks at everything around him, the winds, the storm, everything else, and he starts to sink. And right when he thinks he's about to go, Jesus grabs him. You ain't sunk yet, or you wouldn't be in this room. I want you to hear that. I don't care what has happened in your past. You ain't sunk yet, or you wouldn't be here. And you might not have recognized the hand of God that reached down in the water and pulled your scrawny tail out of the water. But the God of the universe reached through Jesus Christ and other disciples that followed Jesus Christ to grab you almost literally from the pits of hell, and you don't even know it, or you wouldn't be here. Even if you're not a believer, even if you don't even believe there's a Jesus, somebody's done that for you to even consider even hearing what I'm saying to you now. See, heroes help us believe there's a good that still can happen. God can still use us. Peter denies Jesus 3 times in his last hours. Peter denies him after saying the words, I'll never do that. Never do that to you. I'll die before I do that. Dude, before the rooster crows 3 times, you're going to deny even knowing me. A little teenage girl comes up to him at the fire. Aren't you one of his little followers? Oh, heck no. And then he goes and turns into the fisherman. He regresses back into the fisherman, calls down curses and said, it's not he, it's not me. Let me tell you, in Acts, we hear this. Listen to what happens in Acts. After Jesus is gone, after Jesus has restored him, reached down, pulled him up, restored him back, Peter preaches this great message to them on Pentecost, on the day of Pentecost, and the people were like, what do we do? They say in verse 37, when the people heard this, they were cut to the heart, and they asked Peter and the other apostles and the brothers, what should we do? And Peter goes on and says, listen, dude, the promises is for you. This promise is for you and for the children, for all who are far off, and that Lord God will call. He's talking to us. He's telling him, he's like, this message is for you. If you're here today, this message is for you. Peter's saying, in a way, I'm that failure. But God's using me to talk to you now. And I don't care where you are. I don't care what you understand. God can use you. I need you in the fight. You're the hero we're looking for. You're the light in your office. You're the light in your family. You're the light in this situation. You're the hope that people need. And you need to lean into the fear. Because after Peter did that, Peter finishes this sermon. 3,000 people joined the team. 3,000 men joined the team. Who's your heroes? Who's taught you to lean in, to overcome your fear? One of the girls upstairs that works with our children's ministry, we asked her to put together a video. We sent her some clips and some things to do. And I had this song that was on my heart and sent her some stuff. And between her and Chris Sterling back at the back, I said, can you put this together? I said, it's in my head. I can't get it to make sense coming out. Do you understand what I'm saying? I said, I need something to give people the visual. And it all begins with this phrase, Lord, have mercy. Say that with me. Lord, have mercy on me. One more time. Lord, have mercy.
Tonight I ask for your prayers for all those who grieve, for the children whose worlds have been shattered, for all whose sense of safety and security has been threatened. And I pray they will be comforted by a power greater than any of us, spoken through the ages in Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me.
To seek the Lord today for salvation.